Hello, everybody. Good afternoon. Welcome to 2022. Are we ready for the workplace? Prior to March 2020, we didn't know anything about what we didn't know. Of course, this is my own summary of the pandemic. Naively, innocently going about our everyday lives prior to March 2020. And then it seems from out of nowhere, we were blitzed. We were thrown into a massive pool and we were holding on to each other for dear life, trying to navigate, trying to survive through school, work, family, quarantine, business shutdowns all over the place, learning technology we never even heard of before in order to tread water, to survive. We adapted to changes we never anticipated. Do you agree?
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, yep. So the topic I really want to cover today is the now what? We have to move on.
Okay. Pioneers.
Okay. So that's why I came up with these goals for today. Workplace trends for 2022, job seeker and employee trends, in-demand occupations for 2022 and beyond, and then how to move forward. So in the following 6-minute clip, it's a good summary of the most common trends we can expect for 2022 in the workplace. Mr. Bernard Marr's ideas and other detail. This is from an article and in the Forbes magazine, November 2021 edition.
So let's look into these trends. The first one is hybrid working. So research by KPMG found that 69% of large companies expected an overall decrease in the amount of office space they will have. And currently we have about 3 main models. We have the centralized workplaces where everyone goes to work in one building. We have decentralized remote organizations where everyone works away, and then we have the hybrid model, or the best of both worlds. And in 2022 we will see people having much more of a choice. A recent report found that 90% of employees surveyed, including workers and managers, are happier with increased freedom. We're also seeing that this will now have an impact on this, what we call global war for talent, where people compete for jobs anywhere. So if you're a knowledge worker, you have to really think that the world is your oyster. You can work for any organization remotely anywhere. The second trend is AI augmented workforce. So the World Economic Forum predicts that AI and automation will lead to the creation of 97 million new jobs by 2025. But artificial intelligence will also augment jobs and displace others. So we will see the automation of repetitive tasks. Hopefully this will give us a human touch where creativity, imagination, high-level strategic thinking and emotional intelligence will become even more important. And there isn't really any job that I can think of that won't be augmented by AI. If we think about manufacturing, we now work with intelligent robots and alongside intelligent robots, both from the design stage, where we have augmented design robots, to the manufacturing stage itself. We now have doctors. Their jobs are being augmented by artificial intelligence that can now diagnose diseases via machine vision. We are seeing this in retail, where a lot of this is augmented. So we need to really seriously think about breaking our own job down into the things that AIs will be able to do in the future and the things that won't, and then focus on those that AIs won't be able to do very soon. My third trend is staffing for resilience. So in the pre-pandemic, the priority has always been to hire staff that would create this really efficient organizations. Mid and post-pandemic, the emphasis has shifted firmly to the creation of resilience. So where you build in some redundancy and overlaps in skills. The other thing we're seeing is that there's a stronger focus on employee healthcare and well-being, including mental health. And this will create more resilient organizations in the future. My fourth trend is less focus on roles and more focus on skills. Gartner says to build the workforces you will need for the post-pandemic, focus less on roles, which group unrelated skills, and focus more on the skills and the competencies that we will need for the future, that will really fuel your competitive advantage. So skills are critical because they address the core business challenges with the competencies needed in the workforce to overcome those challenges. Roles, on the other hand, describe the way individual members of the workforce relate to an overall organizational structure or hierarchy. So what we will see in 2020 is more fluid careers, more fluid job roles that are focused on skills much more than anything else. And we will see more porous organizational boundaries where people with the right skills are brought into organizations and leave again or work for multiple organizations at the same time. This also has a huge impact for lifelong learning, which will become ever more important, because what we're seeing currently is that the half-life of skills is reducing all the time. So skills you develop today, especially around technical skills, won't be relevant in a few years' time. So we need to continuously upgrade and update our skills. And my fifth trend is employee monitoring and analytics. And it might be a bit controversial, but research shows that employers are increasingly investing in technology designed to monitor and track the behavior of their employees in order to drive efficiency. So platforms such as Aware that allow businesses to monitor behavior across email and tools such as Slack in order to measure productivity are being seen as particularly useful by managers overseeing remote workforces, for example. Of course, there's a real risk here that these tools are being used by organizations in an overbearing or intrusive way. So organizations need to find this fine balance. They want to use it to get a broad oversight into workforce behavior rather than just focus on individuals' activities, and then use this to enforce discipline. Companies that invest in this technology have a fine line to tread, and it remains to be seen whether the net effect will be a boost to productivity or a chilling effect on individuals' freedom. If it's the latter, then it's unlikely to end up well for companies that are doing this. However, for better or worse, it is likely that this kind of technology will play an increasingly large role in our workplace in 2022.
So, what I've learned from watching this is there are what he points to today, there are more choices for how businesses operate. Of course, you have the centralized focus where employees still are reporting on site to the company's location, the fully remote where people are working from home or otherwise, or the hybrid where it's a combination of attending the office and working remotely. What Bernard refers to, he refers to that the remote option is more geared toward knowledge workers. I'm not sure what he meant by that, because in my view, all highly skilled workers are knowledge workers. But surely remote at this point in time would not be an option for many frontline workers, such as healthcare, those in healthcare, retail, teaching, transportation, security. I think about restaurant workers, auto mechanics, acupuncturists, but more and more for those jobs that were historically hands-on and required you to be on site. We're seeing changes here too. some of us have already experienced remote doctor visits. And I saw a remote surgery being performed online. My niece, for example, she's a supervising nurse. She works fully remote. A friend of mine is in education staffing. She's also fully remote. What other occupations can you think of that were historically hands-on, on-site occupations that might become virtual or already are?
My husband's an accountant, and he's able to do a lot of his work from home because it's all, in the computer, a lot of meetings and things like that. So that lends itself well to working from home.
Yes, good point.
But what they've lost, they've downsized their office to a new location, and they no longer each have their own office space. They're just all cubicles there, and the days that you do go to the office, you just take a cubicle and you use it because you've got your laptop, that you're taking back and forth with you.
Yeah. And you're reminding me, Lisa, of my own local accountant, my personal accountant. I haven't seen him face to face in more than 2 years.
Mm-hmm.
It's all done remotely. Other thoughts, ideas?
Computer technicians. Sometimes if you have a problem, for me, when I have a problem with the program that I have with my school, so I ask them online to fix my problem. So they fix it already if I have any problem with my program.
Yes.
The IT.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. That's been remote for quite some time, wouldn't you say? IT support.
Yeah. The help desk in the school, they help us online to fix our problem. If we have the email and the website that we have.
Sure. Yeah. Thank you. All right. More choices in the talent pool for companies. They can recruit for new hires globally for many positions, more than ever before, for jobs like engineering, technology, e-commerce. Companies can broaden their diversity by hiring people from across the globe who bring unique perspectives, talents, and capabilities beyond the boundaries of a single culture. Another trend is, of course, this artificial intelligence. Mr. Marr and others have raised the point about greater use of this AI. It's often referred to. The automation of repetitive tasks already being used in manufacturing, healthcare, education, and retail. He says what did he say? There are 97 million new jobs here that some will displace existing jobs, but it sounded like, from what he said, there will be far more job opportunities than the displaced jobs. The third thing Mr. Marr spoke about was the staff focus on resilience. A major trend is to build a resilient workforce. Well, what does this mean? Resilience is the ability to recover quickly from difficulties. Human resources has a much bigger role than ever before. They need to advocate for their employees and take action, not just serve as reporters of employee behavior, but assist in making changes for equal pay, for diversity in the workplace, taking on real empathy for employees, especially during these times when schools are closing on short to no advance notice. Of course, the bottom line is critical, or the company wouldn't exist, but family and work-life balance have come to the forefront if companies want to hire and retain the best employees. Companies want their staff to be healthy of both mind and body. So human resources needs to dive deeper and learn about what is going on to help employees both in their work and personal lives, because they're interconnected. You can't have a robust workforce if your employees' personal lives are falling apart. Some HR departments offer life coaching to help employees balance their work and personal lives. Companies are investing more in healthcare, COVID tests, stay-at-home policies, mental health support, nutrition, money management. Some companies are even assisting with childcare and certainly more flexible work schedules and hybrid situations, as we discussed earlier. He also talked about the redundance in the skill sets that can help companies to respond to urgent needs or absences, employee absences. You have to have multiple people knowing how to perform certain jobs to recover quickly. Then he talked about skills versus roles. You need to hire people who have capabilities to fulfill business goals, but they might be focusing more on what people can do rather than on specific titles they hold. Titles can actually create boundaries and bureaucracies about who has the authority to do certain things. Having come from 20 years in a mastery of empowerment business consulting firm, I'm sometimes still surprised by the bureaucracies that inhibit employee engagement in the educational and government agency arenas. Careers may be more fluid in the future. That's what I hear in what Bernard is speaking about. People may work for more than one company even. Consultants already do this, but this might be more commonplace where you have more than one employer. I'm hoping we have more options for people to obtain healthcare in these kind of consulting formats. Analytics, advances in technology. Companies have more ability than ever to monitor employee behavior and especially oversee remote workplace behavior. How much time are employees spending shopping and on social media versus actually working? A good friend of mine always says, if you have to babysit your staff, then you have the wrong staff. I agree. And I also say if your staff is engaged in their work, if they are empowered, given new opportunities to take chances, to learn, to grow, to contribute, and if you acknowledge your staff regularly for their specific contributions, then your employees will be so engaged that they won't have time to goof off. There's also big risk in companies doing this full analytics approach to monitoring employee behavior and performance. People just don't want to feel like they're being watched and babysat. Mm-hmm. And I think there's nothing more disempowering. This heavy focus on analytics could backfire and actually inhibit rather than encourage employee performance. So although this will be a big part of our lives, our workplace lives in the future, companies need to be really careful about how they administer this whole process. So that was focused on employer trends for 2022. Now I'd like to focus on the trends for the employee and the job seeker. One positive thing about living through and now transforming our lives through this pandemic is that it has some benefits for the job seeker. So many people left their jobs for so many reasons that many companies are struggling to rebuild their workforce. It's really said to be a job seeker's market. And as a job seeker, you might have more room to negotiate for better pay, more flexible hours, hybrid work models that might work better for you. I've seen signs at companies like Walmart and Costco who are offering college tuition reimbursements and healthcare benefits. What other hiring incentives are you seeing for some of these big box stores when you're out and about?
Healthcare, they giving you healthcare right off the bat.
Yep.
As soon as you walk in the door, giving you healthcare.
Sign-on bonuses, right?
Sign-on bonuses. That's a big one. Yes.
Tuition reimbursement or helping to pay off student loans.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Referral bonuses. I've never seen these incentives before, and it's great to see them. I'm actually seeing applications stating that companies are requiring employees to be vaccinated. I haven't seen the specific question on the application, but I do expect to see it soon. You know that section about the voluntary information regarding race, sexual orientation, etc.? I think it's going to be right in there. Some companies already have this as a requirement on their resumes, and it's in their applicant tracking systems, you know, that automated system that pulls out your resume and moves you forward if you have the correct keywords.
Yes.
That the COVID vaccinations are apt to be part of those keywords very soon, if not already for some companies.
Well, there are a lot of companies that are requiring, or some that are requiring that you be vaccinated. So before they would ever hire you,
yep,
you're going to have to say that you are, because it's their company policy that if you're not vaccinated, you can't work for them. AT&T being the largest example. I mean, there's also the military and several others, but I know AT&T is going to be letting anybody go at the beginning of the, I think by March, if they're not vaccinated.
Yes.
Yeah.
Indeed. Thank you, Lisa. Something else to certainly be aware of and present to is if you have the option to work remotely, you want to set up your workspace. You want to have an organized workspace, a place within your home, perhaps away from barking dogs or squabbling children, or even have the remote technology set up to be able to work productively in your home or apartment. Do you have the self-managing skills, the self-discipline to have that set up and to work enough and productively enough in that remote situation? Not all of us can do it.
True.
I mean, my children are grown and out of the house. You know what? I am reminded years back. This is literally 28 years back when my daughter, she just turned 28, when she was a baby. And it was very early on in the conversation of working remotely. And I was ill-equipped. She was a temper tantrum toddler. And she always blew a tantrum in the very brief time I attempted to work from home in my HR days, because she always had a tantrum during a remote meeting. So that didn't work, but we're far more prepared.
It didn't work, huh?
For these. So virtual interviews. Yes, we've been doing this for the past couple of years. But are you prepared for the virtual team meeting interviews, the virtual international interview, the global competition, the person from Indonesia who speaks 3 languages is your competitor for that job? They say it's a job seeker's market, but if your competition is global, I just want to manage our expectations and be prepared for the unexpected.
It's true.
Yeah, I mean, like I say, my friend, I should say, was interviewed just last night for a job located in Maine by an interviewer. For the position is located in Maine, and the interviewer was located in the Netherlands. He didn't expect that.
Yeah,
quite surprised. So another challenge is the reality is that remote employees cannot access the same level of perks and benefits as their on-site counterparts or coworkers. So this week alone, for example, my husband couldn't access his email. He has COVID, so he was working remotely from home. He couldn't access his email all week, and his technology person never contacted him. He missed an on-site retirement luncheon this week for another staff member. On-site get-togethers like this, casual powwows and water cooler chats are all missing when you're working remotely. And this can create a divide, not just in terms of the overall experience, but also in employee satisfaction, productivity, and perceived equity. For some people, that could be an issue. The other challenge and thing to be aware of is social responsibility. Corporate social responsibility, or CSR, has been around for more than 100 years, a topic for another future webinar, that's for sure. But I'm seeing more of this language than ever in the company's visions and commitment statements. I've even had to assist job seekers rewrite their cover letters to reflect sharing their commitment with companies about sustainability, that desire to focus business strategy in keeping with ethical, social, environmental, cultural, and economic practices of doing business. It's kind of an ecosystem way of thinking. This is all far more in the forefront of business today, and certainly will be going forward. You want to really let these companies know as a job seeker that you're on board with those social responsibility issues, and you share them. That you share the commitments, I should say. Another challenge is technology and the metaverse. Are you open and prepared to continue on the technology learning journey? To be a competent and capable employee, we always need to be open to learning and expanding our use of technology, right? We've all learned that in the last couple of years. So in researching employee and job seeker challenges for 2022, I came across this term metaverse for the first time. You may already know about it, but from the little bit I've learned, it reminds me of the Van Gogh immersion I recently experienced, where we put on these 3D glasses, we sat in stools, and I thought we were fully physically and visually experiencing being in beautiful surroundings like Van Gogh himself in the 1800s. The thing we didn't have was the ability to change or manipulate anything from the tiny bit I understood about that I understand about this metaverse. That might be the whole key for use in the workplace. What have you heard about this whole topic, metaverse? What do you know about it? Because I'm certainly on the very tip of the iceberg here.
My very limited understanding is that it's more of a kind of a I don't want to say virtual reality, but that you can interact almost in a virtual way with different scenarios. I think there's a lot of potential for it in training for certain kinds of things, like driving or flying an airplane or that type of thing, or I'm sure other applications too.
You mean like Star Trek used to have, where you used to go into the
like beam me up, Scotty, like that?
Yeah, when they used to be able to go into the room and fight and train, with the holograms. Is that what you're talking about?
Like simulators, is that? I think simulator type things.
Right.
Oh, yes.
They have like my nephews have Oculus, the Oculus system, which is basically where you put the goggles on, the headpiece, and it is very realistic. I actually did it one day over there, and it's kind of crazy. So it's just a whole nother way of and I guess when you can interact with other people, other real people as the avatar, in that metaverse, it becomes kind of crazy.
Again, another topic for a whole webinar in and of itself to learn more about this, because I really just touched the tip of the iceberg on this one, just very shortly before I prepared for this webinar. And so now I want to talk about some of the fastest growing professions, occupations in, which are said to be in 4 primary areas: healthcare, healthcare support, construction, and personal care fields. The U.S. Labor Department and Bureau of Labor Statistics project fastest growing jobs going into 2030. So not just for the next year, but all the way into 2030, along with their median pay. Yes. Are there any surprises? I've got 3 pages of these jobs here. Are there any surprises for you or interesting jobs? Let's see, we've got photovoltaic installers. These are the, I understand to be the solar panel installers, statisticians.
A lot of health services, a lot of at-home health services. That kind of makes sense.
We've had meteorologists, logisticians,
animal trainers.
Right?
Animal trainers, because everybody is getting pets because they're home more. So now they're so likely to get pets. So yeah,
right.
I can see that one.
Surprise to me, athletic trainers, but so much of it is done remotely these days. Genetic counselors, programmers, of course, research analysts, of course, and food preparation service related workers, nursing instructors, teachers, woodworkers, phlebotomists, software developers. Yeah. Are there any missing that you're aware of?
Not really. I think there's like subcategories, like healthcare. I think elder care is very important. And
yes.
Elder care. But that would fall a little bit under, you know, some of the other medical care providers. So.
Sure.
And even just adult, you know, elderly daycare type situations, because there's a need for that.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's a really good one, and ever growing for sure. Detailed information for any and all occupations. You can always go to this 1tonline.org website. It will give you the occupation descriptions in great detail, the salaries, the required training and education. Lots of information. I know I've merely touched the iceberg, the tip of the iceberg for what is to come in 2022 for businesses, for job seekers and employees. But I also know there's some value in assessing where we're at, what we know and what we know we don't know. Are we ready for 2022? What have we learned today, or other ideas you know about that can help us prepare to look for jobs and for being productive employees? What have I missed about company, job seeker, and employee trends and challenges for this 2022 and beyond?
I feel like we're approaching now, and just starting to approach, people wrapping their heads around the fact that things are not going to go back to the way that they were before.
Yeah.
I think up until this winter, there was a thought that maybe we would revert back to the old ways much more than we're ever going to be able to in so many industries and so many different ways of life. And I think there's still a lot of resistance to it, and I don't think we're quite there yet. So I would say no, I don't think we're ready for 2022, because I don't think most people have embraced that concept. It's a hard one.
It's a hard one. And boy, is that a terrific and valid point, Lisa. Really confronting that. You know, I talked ever so briefly about transforming. We have to be these transformed people. But really, we need to, before you can transform, you really need to assess where you're at. And if you're still resisting, there's no possibility, or very limited possibility, for you to transform into a whole new way of existing, of being, until you accept and confront what you're resisting. Other thoughts? All right. Yeah.
No, I was just going to say that, I think I agree with everything you guys are saying, and that there's just the most important thing we could bring to be ready is just kind of an openness and the ability to kind of roll with whatever happens and adjust. So, as to the gentleman in the video was saying, resiliency and adaptability are going to be the most important things. And being okay with trial and error and not, having to work through things. So
yeah,
that's important too.
Yeah, very good. Well, thank you so much for your time today, folks. If you want to learn more, if you'd like this particular video that was conducted today, please subscribe to our channel to see more. And I will see you all soon. Thank you very much.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thanks. Bye.
Enjoyable.
Bye-bye.
Enjoyable.
Good job, Robin.
Alrighty. Bye-bye.
Bye.